Premier Zikalala has requested for parts of the province affected by inclement weather to be declared a state of disaster. So since December, severe storms have lashed the northern parts and the western parts of that province. Premier Zikalala convened a special executive council meeting which learned that more than 3 billion rand may be needed to repair infrastructure, including roads, bridges and houses. Karinda Jagmohan was there and has more for us. So bring us the details as you heard them in that meeting, Karinda.
Absolutely, Dudu. So, like you mentioned, that request being made for parts of the province to be declared as a state of disaster. Since November through to December and of course January, there have been 205 incidents of severe thunderstorms ravaging parts of KwaZulu-Natal, specifically the northern and western parts of the province over the past weeks. Our teams have visited areas like Howick, the KwaZulu-Natal Midlands, northern areas, as well as in Ndwedwe, just north of Durban, where a number of homes were actually almost torn down or had collapsed because of the severity of the strong winds and torrential rain that caused flooding through these communities. Now, the special executive council meeting was held by the Premier late yesterday after the KwaZulu-Natal government members had done a tour of some of the affected parts of the province, and they found through that meeting, following a report from the disaster management teams, that now 3.3 billion rand is needed to conduct repairs to the affected infrastructure. There have been a number of roads, bridges, houses, critical infrastructure that has been damaged because of these storms. And so by declaring these parts of this province a state of the disaster through Section 41 of the Disaster Management Act, then the local government will be able to dip into emergency funds to try and reach this 3.3 billion rand that is needed for repairs. They'll also be able to allocate budget from different other areas of local government, those spheres, as well as grants, to try and conduct these repairs in a more speedily fashion and roll out the much needed relief aid. People on the ground currently, for example in Howick, at one of the informal settlements that we visited, structures have completely collapsed, trees fell on them, and so residents there were without really any proper shelter. They needed building material, they needed mattresses, even replacing and replenishing their groceries. For those residents who have saved every last penny, especially through December, to buy some of the things that they need. Private companies have stepped in. We saw Gift of the Givers in that area, as well as a number of private citizens that have tried to help where they can. But still, in areas like Ladysmith, which is more in the inland part of the province, there have been towns that have been completely flooded, and of course those repairs need to be undertaken by the local government. So that is what that meeting entailed late yesterday, was just to actually also recount what has happened so far. Sadly, the other update is that now 25 people, we have learned, have died during the past 3 months from the storms that we have seen. Several people drowned, as well as we understand 6 people were struck by lightning. More than 2,000 houses were affected by this. We understand 773 homes have been completely destroyed, and of course those need rebuilding as well.
Schools are expected to reopen next week. You spoke to Kwazi Mshengu, the Education MEC. Let's take a look, listen what he had to say.
Over the past few days, in fact since December, the province has been experiencing inclement weather conditions that has been affecting our schools also. There is a number of 186 schools that have been affected, and 90 of them require serious attention in terms of deployment of mobile classrooms, because a number of classes have been affected in those schools. We are working hard to make the provision of mobile classrooms to those schools, but because of the rotational system which will follow again at the beginning of as we reopen our schools, we are not anticipating that there will be any school that will not open because probably mobile classrooms have not arrived. So all schools will open and will function accordingly, but the 90 schools will also benefit in terms of mobile classrooms, because the intention is that we start really getting more learners coming back on daily basis, so that we avoid a situation where learners progress but with serious learning gaps. Currently, we have less than 1,500 learners that have not been admitted. I'm talking about learners that are on our records. Obviously, we know that on the first schooling day, there will be a number of learners and parents pitching up in different schools across the province, demanding or requesting to be admitted. Mostly are the learners that have not applied, but those that are on record having applied, there are now less than 1,500. We are continuing with assisting them today and for the duration of the weekend. So we are not expecting disruption in terms of a number of people who are not admitted, as the case may be. We have set up admission committees in all our 12 districts in the province to make sure that even those that will be pitching up on the first schooling day are also assisted. It is our intention that by end of January, every learner that is supposed to be in a classroom is indeed in a classroom.
So, Dudu, that was the Education MEC in KwaZulu-Natal, Kwazi Mshengu. We spoke to him just about an hour ago about the readiness to open schools in the midst of the damage to critical infrastructure we've seen over the past 3 months. He says that 186 schools have been affected by the storms, and now amongst those 90 schools have been severely impacted, especially in northern KwaZulu-Natal, where already there are problems and issues with infrastructure. Those 90 schools will have to use mobile classrooms until repairs can be conducted. So that is why the state of disaster has been requested by the local government, is to speed up these repairs and try and get that over 3 billion rand to actually do this. And also, just speaking about schools that are expected to open next week in KZN, teachers will return to school on Monday, and then on Wednesday schools will reopen for the pupils. KwaZulu-Natal has one of the largest school systems in the country with more than 6,000 schools, and there's also been some issues as well with water and sanitation there, but the Education MEC saying that they are ready, all systems go. Just under 1,500 learners are yet to be placed in schools, but this is only what the department has on record, and they do expect that on Wednesday more pupils will come to school with their parents, hoping to get admission into schools. They say that they are confident to deal with these challenges. It's something they've seen in the past, but in the meanwhile, though, those 186 schools, mostly in the northern and western parts of KZN, are facing some issues with regards to infrastructure damaged by the storms we have seen over the past 3 months. Dudu.
Karinda Jagmohan, thank you for that report.